I am pretty convinced that we are in the last stages of the ability for America to survive. We are in an end game right now, and that is not a liberal end game or a conservative end game. It's a combination of both, and we are without mercy, and we are without forgiveness. And we have to rethink that. We have to get it back into the earliest years of public schools so that your civic education is complete by high school graduation. It has nothing to do with college or university. And the more you explore that, the more you'll see why that's simple and commonsensical.
If I'm not mistaken, I think in 2015, you were spotted at the back of a Ted Cruz rally or something like that, and people started calling you all of these awful names, and you're a crazy right-winger, and all of this stuff. And I remember seeing that, I think on YouTube or something, thinking I didn't know anything about your politics beforehand. It didn't matter to me. You're a great actor. I happen to, now I really like Ted Cruz. I didn't like him as much at the moment, but okay, you were just in the back of the room, if I can picture the video again. But that a certain side went crazy on you, but had it been the other way around, had you shown up to, say, a Hillary Clinton rally, I don't know that you would have got hate, that it's not exactly equal. I get the idea of that you want to be above the craziness, but right now it does seem to me, and I wrote my whole first book was a defense of liberalism, of classical liberalism. It does seem to me there is an asymmetry that we're all struggling with right now in terms of how each side behaves. Not to say that the conservatives don't have their bad actors too.
I think if you can start out by thinking that one side is inherently better than the other, that it is more easy to perceive the morality of the GOP as opposed to the Democrats, then you're nuts, because they're all equally nuts. The Democrats are, and so are the Republicans. And what happened in that year was that I simply went to the Republican caucus in Iowa to watch. And it was...
You crazy radical.
And yeah. And it was, what's his name? The guy that you mentioned.
Ted Cruz.
No, not Ted Cruz. It wasn't Ted Cruz.
It wasn't Ted Cruz? Who was it?
No, it was...
was it Rubio?
No, it wasn't a candidate. He was a columnist, a commentator. And you just mentioned him at the beginning of the interview. He outed me.
Okay.
He outed me. He wrote a column about what was Richard Dreyfuss doing at the Iowa caucuses. And then the liberals went crazy. and all of my friends and associates just couldn't leave it alone. And my son, who at that time was quite young, he wrote a piece that was on the internet where he was saying, why is my actor father in a position to give lessons in ethics to America? And so, what's her name? Megyn Kelly invited us on her show when she was still with Fox. So the two of us went on. And for me, it was simply, if you're a smart person, you scrutinize, you read everything. You don't read what reinforces your already assumed habits. And, I hold being a high school history teacher to be just about second to being an actor. An actor is the best thing on earth to do, unless you're a high school history teacher. And then I would say, how many kids here in this room have the same politics as their parents. And whatever number of hands goes up, I say, for this semester, you take the opposite view. Under compulsion, you do not agree with your parents, and I don't care. I want you to disagree with your parents on every paper.
Parents must have really loved this.
Well, it never happened, so I never got to know. And I watched. I graduated in 65. By 69, there were kids who had the legal right to get up and leave any class that they just disagreed with. Well, that's stupid. That's a stupid thing to do. You don't turn over the future of your country to people who are making life decisions when they're 16 and a half. No.
In retrospect, knowing that, what the 16-and-a-half-year-olds were doing, in 69, now these people are running the country. I mean, I guess this isn't shocking where we're at, huh?
No, it isn't. You're right, because what happened was that it was the generation that took power after the 60s. They were the 70 to 72 school board members. They're the ones who thought that they were smart enough to tell the founding fathers to take a hike and not educate. We came up with a unique system, and it was unique. And we said, we will educate you to this system, and then you are obligated to pass it on to your kids. And that was serious business. And we did that. And that didn't guarantee a Republican future or a Democratic future. It said that both sides had something to offer. And if you did, for instance, I would always say as a history buff, I would say there's no such thing as one great history. There's always at least two that can, oppose one another. And if you don't see the advantage to that, then slow down and shut up and listen more.
Are you hopeful that we'll get there?
I am pretty convinced that we are in the last stages of the ability for America to survive. We are in an endgame right now, and that is not a liberal endgame or a conservative endgame. It's a combination of both, and we are without mercy, and we are without forgiveness. And we have to rethink that. We have to get it back into the earliest years of public schools so that your civic education is complete by high school graduation. It has nothing to do with college or university. And the more you explore that, the more you'll see why that's simple and commonsensical. And the founders knew everyone had to be educated to a certain kind of participatory citizenship. And they knew that. It had nothing to do with those who could afford to go on to university. That was creating exactly why they had left the British Empire. So if they had some informed pride, they should be as proud as punch to give their youngest of their young a real grounding in civics.
So it's interesting because I talk about a lot on the show how we are at this moment, what you're describing as an endgame. We seem to be at a moment in the country where we can basically go two ways at this point. We can either figure out how to, maintain ourselves as the United States of America, or the states really just kind of need to go their separate ways, and that's sort of what federalism is about in the first place. but then what makes us united, and will we end up in perpetual civil war? And there's a litany of problems with that. So describe what Endgame, I mean, Endgame can go two ways, right? Endgame can be we end up in just utter chaos, or there is something that comes after Endgame that's positive, right?
Let me
hopefully,
put it this
I
way.
suppose.
If you believe that you have to find that which we share and not that which divides us, we should be proud of opposing views. We should be proud of having dissent. And they have always been the hallmarks of America, always, until so recently that people don't understand what history itself is. But that's what you've got to fight. You don't have a choice between having the United States and having chaos, because that's not a choice. It may be fatal. It may be the worst possible thing that could happen to us. But what we should be doing is agreeing on the need for civics.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of mindless drivel, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.